Move Beyond, and this video is part of the Female Triangle of Power event. The Female Triangle of Power is a network of female entrepreneurs who have joined their strengths to support each other, to support their business, and also to contribute to this lockdown by helping people in Swansea and bringing our knowledge to all of you. So in that way, we're thinking, we hope that we can make this lockdown a little bit better. So we hope you enjoy the whole series of videos that we have ready. Well, now I'm going to start with mine. So as a little bit of an introduction for myself, I'm Olga. I'm from Spain, as you might notice from my accent. I've been living in Swansea for 3 years, and I work for Swansea University as a researcher. I'm a PhD in sports science, and I'm specialized in exercise during pregnancy and during the postpartum period. I've also recently launched my own entrepreneurship project, which is Women Move Beyond. And the aim of Women Move Beyond is to empower pregnant and postnatal women through exercise. So my video for the Female Triangle of Power is going to be dedicated to pregnant women. So I thought, what would be my best way to contribute to this, and what kind of knowledge and help I can bring to pregnant women. So I thought about something that it might not be really easy to find in the internet. So I thought about bringing you a few exercises that you can do when you are on labor. Okay, so to explain that a little bit better, I have here my friend the pelvis. So this is a female pelvis, as you can see. And what happens in the last stages of the pregnancy, in the last few weeks, normally between 36 weeks onwards, and also being in labor, the pelvis, the bones in the pelvis are going to adjust to the baby's shape, and also to help the baby to go through the birth canal and all the way out. So I'm going to explain you which bones the pelvis has, so we can understand a little bit better how the pelvis is moving and which bones are moving as well. So here in the pelvis we have 4 main bones. So we have 2 iliac bones, which you see is the big one here. So we have 2, a right one and a left one in the sides of in both sides of the pelvis. At the back of the pelvis we have 2 other bones. So we have the sacrum, which you can see it's quite a thick bone, and it goes all the way down, and the last bone at the bottom of the sacrum is the coccyx, or the tailbone. Okay, so I'm sure you have heard of it as a tailbone, so I will try to refer it as a tailbone instead of coccyx, but if I say coccyx, you just know it is the same bone. Okay, but also I'm going to focus a little bit more on the iliac bone. So the iliac bone is formed as well for 3 other bones. Okay, so we have the ilium, which is the top part, the top and the biggest part. Okay, so we can see the outside here and the inside here. Then we have the ischium, which is this bit here. This bone is known as the sit bone, because when we sit on them. We have 2 as well. So you can see here we sit. When we're sitting, we're kind of leaning on both of them. So I will be referring to the ischium as a sit bone, okay, because it's just more common and it's easier to remember that. And then on the front we have the pubis. Okay, so the pubis is joined by a disc here. You cannot notice it here really well because it's with the same color as well as the bones, but the bit that we see here is not a bone, it's a disc similar to the ones that we have on our spine. Okay? What happens with this disc during pregnancy and also during labor is that it's going to be like super stretched because the bones are going to be pulling it out. So it can hardly be here sometimes on the front of the pubis when you're pregnant as well, just because of the pressure that the pubis is holding, or the pubis is supporting. So now that we know the bones of the pelvis, oh sorry, I forgot about one. I'll try to show you. So I don't know if you can see here where I have my finger. There's a little peak of bone here. This little peak is called the sciatic spine, and it's going to be quite important, especially when we are on labor. Okay, so I'll be talking about that little pointy bone during my video. So well, now that we know the parts of the pelvis and the bones that are forming the pelvis, I'm going to explain to you how the pelvis moves before, the last weeks of the pregnancy and during labor. Okay, so as I said, in the last weeks of the pregnancy, the top part of your pelvis is going to open, is going to widen to make space for the baby, so the baby have enough room to go through. So what the pelvis does is moving the iliums out, pulling them out and a little bit forward to make this imaginary ring of the pelvis, which is known as well as the inlet of the pelvis, but I will refer to it as the first ring of the pelvis. So when the baby is sitting here, when the head of the baby is here, just a few weeks before you give birth, all this first ring is going to go widening. So the iliums, as I said, are going to go opening out and are going to be moving a little bit forward. Okay, this, because they both move on the same way, this is going to allow the sacrum, the stick bone here, to move slightly backwards, moving in this way. So as you can imagine, all our first ring is going to go widening. Okay. Then when you're in labor and as labor progresses, and the baby has the head and the shoulders of the baby, which are the widest part of the baby. Once the head of the shoulders have passed the first ring, then the baby has to pass the second ring of the pelvis, or the midplane. Okay, so the second ring or the midplane is an imaginary circle around the middle of the sacrum, the sciatic spines, and the middle pubis as well. So for the baby to pass through this second ring, what the pelvis is going to do, the pelvis is going to start closing the first ring because the baby has passed through it already. So it's going to go closing the iliums a little bit and moving them slightly backwards. Also, the little pointy bones that we saw here, the sciatic spines, they're gonna be moving a little bit backwards and a little bit out to make more room for the baby. Once the baby has passed the second ring, then it has to go through the third ring or the outlet of the pelvis. The outlet is formed by the lowest part of the pubis, both sit bones and the tailbone. So when we can see it has kind of a diamond shape. That's the third ring of the pelvis, and that would be the last bit the baby has to go through in order to be born. Sorry. So at this point, we need to widen this diamond. So what is the pelvis doing? So the iliums are going to go even more in, and at this point they're going to go in and moving backwards a little bit. So in this way, if they move backwards, what they're going to be doing, they're going to be pushing the sit bones forward, a little bit forward and a little bit out, in order to make this ring a little bit wider. Okay? They're going to be pressing the sacrum in a way that the sacrum is going to move forward. It's going to move this way. So at this point, the coccyx as well is going to be dragged up and out by the sacrum. So the coccyx, the tailbone, is going to be moving a little bit out and a little bit back. So you can see here that the coccyx can move. And in women, it moves a little bit more, and that's the reason why. Because we need it to move in order to give a space for the baby. So that's what the sacrum and the coccyx are doing. They're gonna be moving back and a little bit up. So in that way, we'll widen the third ring of the pelvis. So now that we know how the pelvis moves, so that's our movements that the pelvis is going to be doing when you're in labor. But also you as a woman can help the pelvis widen with some movements, and that's the bit I'm gonna explain later. Okay, so if you want to have a more active labor, if you want to be more proactive during your labor, you can follow these exercises. And of course, tell your midwife that you plan to be active, because there might be some cases in which movement is not good or is not allowed. Okay, so make sure that you let your midwife know, or your healthcare provider, that you plan to be active during your labor. Okay, just in case they have any concerns, or just in case it might not be good for you or for the baby. Okay, so always safety comes first. So I'm going to get changed, and I'm going to explain you what kind of movements you can do to help the pelvis widen in its different rings, and to help the baby going all the way out through the birth canal. Okay, so I'll see you in a minute. Hi, I'm back, and now we're going to start practicing exercises for you to do during the last weeks of the pregnancy, and also when you start being in labor. Okay, so for you to remember what we want in those last weeks of the pregnancy, and also in the first bit of the labor when you start having contractions and you might still be at home, we wanted to widen the first ring of the pelvis. Okay, so for this I'm going to show you a few exercises that you can practice in. You can start practicing when you are 35-36 weeks. Okay, and again, I know you're going to remember this in the first part of the labor. Okay, so you can do exercises standing up. Okay, and what we're gonna try is to move the pelvis in an asymmetric way. So when we say we're moving the pelvis in a symmetric way, we mean that we move the pelvis and both sides of the pelvis are in the same direction. So we either do tilts of the pelvis, or we move the pelvis forward and back, or we move the pelvis to the sides. Okay, and when we say we want to do asymmetric movements, it means we're going to move one side of the pelvis in one direction and the other side of the pelvis in other direction. Okay, so what we're going to look for in this first stage of labor, and also in the last weeks of the pregnancy, are asymmetric movements. Okay, so we're going to start with one super easy. You will need to stand quite wide keep your knees soft always, because this position is going to enhance and is going to increase the range of motion of the pelvis. Okay, so we're going to start just quite easy, just doing big circles with your pelvis. And this type of movement, so you see when we're here, when we're doing the circle, we're moving the pelvis, both sides of the pelvis, in different ways. And this type of movement helps to help the baby to find the way to go through the first circle. And you can do both circles in both directions. We can also do eights. Eights are infinities. So what you will have to do is to picture an 8 or infinity shape on the floor, and we just follow that shape with the pelvis. So you do one side of the 8 and then the other side of the 8. You can do this forward or backwards. Okay? The bigger you do this movement, the better you're gonna help the pelvis to widen. And remember, always keep your knees super relaxed and super soft. We can do these exercises sitting on a ball as well. So we can just sit on the ball and just do the circles on the ball. You can do both sides. Okay. And we can do this one as well on your knees. Okay. So when you're staying on your knees, I will recommend for you to go wide as well, and you can just rest on the ball, and you can do pelvic tilts here, so you can rotate your pelvis outwards and then rotate your pelvis inwards. So we just tilt it back and forth. That helps as well. Or you can just simply rest. Okay, because in this position the pelvis is free, it can move itself, and you can also rest. One thing you can do if you want to rest on the wall or on the bed is for your partner or the person who is going to be with you, only for this first stage of the labor, is to press gently on your tailbone. Okay, so they only have to keep their hand at the bottom of the sacrum and on the tailbone, and just give a gentle pressure, because with this we're going to help the pelvis to widen and we're going to help the sacrum to go backwards, and that's what we wanted, to widen the first ring of the pelvis. So that's another thing they can do as well while you're resting in this position. Okay? Another exercise you can do, I'm going to use the chair, but you can do this one either leaning on a wall or leaning on your partner or the person who's going to be with you when you're in labor. So you just stand up in front of the chair or in front of any surface you can lean on. We're going to keep a wide position as well. We're going to point your feet a little bit in, okay, in this position, and now we're going to lean towards the side. So you should feel a stretch in the side, in the outside of your bum. With that stretch, what we're doing is we're pulling this bit out, and that's another thing we wanted to happen as well in the first bit of the labor. Okay, so you can stretch one side and come back to the center. So we keep working asymmetrically because we're stretching only one side, and then you can do the other side. And remember to keep your foot pointing in, so you can feel that it's stretching on the side of your bum. Okay. So you can do a couple of them, and you can always mix and match. Okay, depending on how you feel your body is telling you to do. So those are exercises you can do and you can practice last weeks of the pregnancy and during the first bit of labor while the baby's going through the first ring of the pelvis. And now we're going to go to explain some exercises for the second ring of the pelvis. And just for you to quickly remember, the second ring of the pelvis is the one that's kind of in the middle. So what we want to do for this second ring to widen is also asymmetric movements as well, because what we want especially is, remember, the sciatic spine, the little pointy bones that are inside here, we need them to open back and out. So what we're going to do is lots of asymmetric movements. So the first exercise we're gonna learn, it's gonna be an asymmetric one as well. So we're gonna keep toes pointing forward. We're gonna lean on one side, and from there we're gonna do a big circle. So we go leaning on one side and doing a big circle. I'm gonna keep only a little bit your toes pointing in as well, similar as the one we were doing before. We're gonna keep a big circle there. And of course, you will have to do both sides, okay? You can practice a little bit one side and a little bit the other. And another way we can do this exercise a little bit more asymmetric is keeping one leg forward and the other one backwards. And from there we keep doing the same, we keep doing the big circles. And we can even do it more, even a little bit more asymmetric. We can point with one foot out, and we're going to point with the opposite foot in. Okay? So even if we see that they are both pointing in the same direction, one is rotated outwards and the other one is rotated inwards. Okay? So we keep the asymmetric position there as well, and we can keep doing circles. So those are exercises you can do standing up. We're going to practice now somewhere on your knees. If you don't have a ball, you can also lean on a chair, or you can lean on the bed, or you can lean on the person who's going to be with you when you're in labor, okay? You have different options. So when we're leaning on the ball, we can stay on your knees. You can relax there. And from there, we're going to try and do the same. We're going to point with one knee out and with the other one in. And from there, we can keep moving the pelvis. We can as well sit a little bit and come back up. So we sit and down. And another one we can practice is keeping the knees just pointing forward, and from there just pull the pelvis to one side and then pull the pelvis to the other. So we keep working in an asymmetric way. And here you're going to feel, if we stay in this position and we pull the pelvis to one side and to the other, we're going to feel it starts to pull in your inner thigh. And that's going to help as well in the transition from the second ring to the third ring. Okay, so far we have exercises for the baby to go through the first ring of the pelvis and for the baby to go through the second. And now we will be explaining exercise you can do for the baby to go through the third ring of the pelvis, which would be the last stage of labor. Okay, so for this, remember for this ring, we were saying it has more a diamond shape. What we want is the sit bones to open, to go a little bit forward and a little bit out, and for the table to move up and backwards. Okay? So, for this one, we're going to be working in a symmetric way. We're going to keep the pelvis pulling both sides in the same way. And we also are going to keep internal rotation of the hips. So for you to remember, when we talk about internal rotation, we're meaning like knees in, fit in as well, okay? Or only knees in and the feet can be, the feet can be resting, but mainly think about knees pointing in, okay? So we can work standing up. You can lean, I can use the chair to lean on the chair, so I'm gonna stay just pointing my knees in, and from there just resting, stretching a little bit back and going up. Just feel when you're in this position how your bum is stretching and the back of your thigh is stretching as well. So that means we're pulling out our sit bones. So we can move like this. Okay, we could do this one as well. Leaning on the wall, feet pointing out, knees pointing in. So remember, what we're looking always is for the knees to be pointed in. From there we can just move gently or just rest. And another thing we can do, similar to one of the exercises we were doing for the baby to go through the second wing of the pelvis, is to sit down a little bit and go up. So you kind of sit down a bit and up. So what we're doing here is also flexing the pelvis, flexing the hip. We're doing a hip flexion here, and a hip flexion is going to help as well to widen the last ring of the pelvis. We're pulling, when we flex the hip, we're pulling the sit bone forward, and that's one of the things that we want. So we keep the knees pointing in and we just sit a little bit and go up. To increase the hip flexion, we can stay squatting really low. So here you can see my hip flexion is quite big. We can just stay here and just kind of rock on the ball. And we're keeping that big hip flexion. Okay? And last one we can practice, it is combining the internal rotation, the hip internal rotation, the hip flexion, and also a hip abduction. We're gonna, for the hip abduction, what we meant is to keep the legs quite wide. That's gonna help as well to pull the sit bones and the pubis a little bit out to keep widening this last ring of the pelvis. So we can stay, we can lean on someone or just on the side. We're gonna keep knees in, feet pointing in, quite wide position, and from there we're just gonna lean forward. So we're doing the flexion as well, and in this way we're just increasing the diameter of that third ring of the pelvis. And you can just keep this position and stay there. You can do this one as well if you have something. For example, I have the chair here, you can just lean here. Okay, or I could lean on someone as well and just keep this posture. So, well, that has been everything from my side. I'm only going to add 2 more movements that you can practice in case you have an epidural or in case you cannot move too much. Okay, in case you have a fetal monitor. So in that case, you're not gonna be able to move as free as you want, maybe, but we still have some some options that you can do. So for the first stage of labor, if you need to be sitting down, if you need to be resting, you can sit down either in a lotus position. We keep here the knees quite wide, we're opening the pelvis, and we're also sitting on your tailbone. And remember, one of the things that we wanted to happen for the first ring of the pelvis to widen is to have a little bit of pressure on the tailbone. So either a hand pressing on maybe the tailbone, or you can just sit down and here the tailbone is being pressed against the surface, against the bed if you're sitting on the bed or on a chair, and here you can just rest, okay? And also, if you feel the contractions have been really strong and you need to rest between contractions, that's a really good posture you can keep, because it allows you to rest and it also allows the pelvis to keep widening and to keep moving. For the second ring of the pelvis to widen, if you have an epidural or if you are not allowed to move or if you're not allowed to leave the bed, you can always, I'm just going to grab a cushion, you can lean on your side, you can keep the bottom leg resting, and with the upper leg you can move it with the knee pointing up and then knee pointing down, foot pointing up, and we just rotate the hip there and we help one side of the pelvis to widen, okay? If you have an epidural, you're not going to be able to move the leg, but you can always ask someone to move your leg up and down, and then you can just roll and move the other side. So even you can do this one if you have an epidural. We're going to keep the same position to widen the third ring of the pelvis. The only thing I'm changing, I'm going to keep the opposite leg in a big hip flexion. Okay, remember we were saying a big hip flexion is going to help to widen the third ring of the pelvis. So I'm going to keep the bottom leg in a big flexion, and we're going to keep doing the same movement with the other leg, or just keeping the leg up here. So in this way we're keeping both legs in a big flexion, and from here we can even rotate the upper leg in. Okay, so someone can also help you to keep that leg here up, rotated in and with a big flexion. Okay, so this is all my proposal for you. If you have any questions, you know you can contact me in my email. That's olga@womenmovebeyond.com. And my last thing to suggest is for you to practice all those exercises before you start labor. Don't leave it till the end, because when you're in labor, you are in labor. That's it. Your body and your mind needs to be concentrating on the labor, and your body is not to be learning any new things, okay? It's just your body's going to be there, and you are going to be there listening to your body and answering to what your body needs. So if you can practice those from your 35-36 weeks onwards until you start labor, your body's going to be ready, and your body will know and will recognize those exercises, those movements, for you to have a more active birth. And remember, as I said in the beginning, always ask your midwife if you're allowed to be moving in labor, because, well, sadly, not, or the conditions that we have during pregnancy might not be proper ones to be active in labor. So always consult, always ask your main healthcare provider or your midwife in case they need to raise any concerns. And well, you also have my email. Feel free to contact me for anything that you need, and I hope this has contributed a little bit to the lockdown and you have learned. So thank you so much for listening to me, and I'll see you soon.